Kia ora Stefano, Mark the Demystifier here, and today I want to respond to a question from an anonymous new patron. And when I say a patron, that's all to do with a Patreon. So if you're watching this on YouTube, you can watch that for free, but you'll only be able to see part one, and you'll be completely gripped and you'll want to see the rest, no doubt. In which case you need to sign up to a site called Patreon. And Patreon is a site that was set up so that creative people could be rewarded and paid for their output. You may know that people used to make money from their YouTube output, but it doesn't really work anymore. So if you subscribe to Patreon, then what that means is you enable me to put more time and resources into making more videos. I can respond to individual patron requests. So somebody that signs up and becomes a sponsor of me on Patreon, then therefore they become known as a patron. So that's how it all works. I'll probably shoot another short video just explaining what that's all about. But on with the show, as I say, the question that was posed was all about therapy. This is somebody that's thinking about becoming a counsellor and wondering which college to go to and which route to take and all that kind of thing. And obviously it'd be quite a kind of parochial video if I went into kind of recommending individual colleges in local areas. But what I thought would be helpful would be to talk about the different types of therapy and the essence of what they're all about. There are millions of different kinds of therapy. People are coming up with different things all the time. I'm talking about psychotherapy here and counselling, not other therapies like physiotherapy and occupational therapy and complementary therapy. We're talking about kind of talking therapies here. So I'm going to do a video which will probably run into a few parts, and I'm going to talk about the different types of therapy. We're going to kind of keep it simple and break it down into the three schools of therapy. Starting, of course, with good old Sigmund Freud, the father of psychotherapy. Now, lots has been said about Freud, and lots more will be said about Freud. Like him or loathe him, he was undoubtedly a genius, as evidenced by the fact that he spoke about 7 languages. He actually said he had more books in his library about archaeology than he did about psychology. So he was a polymath, he was a Renaissance man. He could have gone into almost any field and excelled, but he chose to go into, not psychotherapy because it didn't exist back then, but he chose to go into medicine, and he chose to go into neurology, because people always used to kind of talk about nerves, didn't they? People don't say this so much now, but they say, oh, she's suffering with her nerves. So neurology and kind of psychology were kind of blurred, at least in the popular imagination. So Freud was not a psychiatrist, as many people would say. He was actually a neurologist, and he was the first. So even if you hate Freud, then give him credit. You know, he started things off. And the schools of therapy that went against Freud and went completely the other way, they wouldn't have been in existence if it hadn't been for Freud. They needed something to kick against, if you like. So the anti-Freudian schools of therapy, or the schools of therapy that kind of clash and have different philosophy to Freud, they still owe their existence to this man. So give him some credit, please. So, Freudian therapy. So when we think of, I'm going to kind of be giving kind of almost caricatures of the different schools to give you a flavour. You could read lots of academic stuff about these different schools and what they mean. What I want to do is to give you a real kind of touchy-feely, tangible kind of sense of what they all are, and it will be to an extent a caricature, but hopefully an accurate one, hopefully a helpful one. So if you see on television dramas somebody lying on a couch and the therapist sitting behind them wearing a dicky bow tie and smoking a pipe and asking them about their mother, then we're talking about the kind of classic Freudian psychotherapy, which is where it all began. And the therapy and the philosophy that Freud created was called psychoanalysis. Okay, And out of psychoanalysis came a broader approach called psychodynamic therapy. And psychodynamic therapy means, psyche actually means the soul, but in this case it's referring to the mind, and dynamics as in different elements that interrelate and move and have a separate existence and interact with one another. And psychodynamic therapy comes from there. This is the classical school of therapy, the first school of therapy. In many ways, I think, one of the most interesting ones, I think, actually. So I will tell you more in part 2. So if you're watching this on YouTube or on any other medium, then please come and join me on Patreon. It doesn't cost much, it's just $1 a month is all you need to sign up. And not only do you get lots of different videos, not just stuff on this subject, but a whole range of subjects, and you get discounts, and you get to have personal correspondence with me, and you can demand that I produce videos on topics of your choosing, to a certain extent, because I'm not going to do one on gynecology or beekeeping or anything like that. So I will see you in part 2. I'm keeping these videos quite short because they're easier to upload. So therefore, and they may emerge one by one, so you might have the excitement of having to wait for the next episode, like back in the old days when we watched TV series one by one without binge watching on Netflix. So enough for now, and I will be back very soon to say a bit more, first about the psychodynamic school, then we're going to talk about the cognitive behavioural school of therapy, and then we're going to talk about the humanistic school of therapy, and it's going to be fun. So see you soon. Take care.